Well, welcome back to 42nd Street Pete's Grindhouse, and let's do a little bit more of a Black History type deal. Black History in the Grindhouse, that is. And I recently picked this up, this wonderful set from Imprint, which has 4 lost blaxploitation movies in it, including The Legend of Black Charlie, The Soul of Black Charlie, Superfly TNT, and Detroit 9000. And this is a 1,500 piece run, I believe. That's the only reason I grabbed it, because once they're gone, they're gone. And I don't think anybody else is going to release this stuff. Came out of Australia. The movies look great. The only one that sort of didn't hold up to me was Superfly TNT. The Black Charlie ones were everything I wanted to see again. Action, good westerns, good stuff. But then we hit a snag, so to speak, because it was an interview with Fred the Hammer Williamson, where he basically claimed he didn't do blaxploitation films. And I'm like, okay. The only mainstream film I can ever think that you appeared in was the original MASH. This was one of your first here. And The Legend of Bleeper Charlie, that's not exploitive, that's not blaxploitation. Of course it is. What about Black Caesar? What about Hell Up in Harlem? What about a lot of the stuff you did? He really came off like a cocky fuck in the interview. Like he said, his whole deal was, when he got into the movies, was he didn't lose his fights, he didn't get killed at the end, and he got the girl if he wanted it or not. Well, honestly, outside of that, what has he done? I mean, it's all been exploitation. I mean, if you want to throw in Dusk Till Dawn, which was a major release, and things like that, but it's kind of weird because blowing that whole thing off, that's what made you famous. So why would you turn your back on it? It's sort of like, Clint Eastwood and Lee Van Cleef saying, well, we never did spaghetti westerns. Yeah, right. The other sort of letdown for me was this. I picked this up, Jim Brown's autobiography, which I basically wasted my money on because I knew there was going to be football stuff in there, but I thought there would be a lot more on his movie career, which there was absolutely nothing. It was more of, he got the Rio Concho's gig, that was his first movie, but then he didn't say nothing about that. Then he got the Dirty Dozen thing, and he said a little about that basically guys like Charles Bronson, George Kennedy, Ernest Borgnine, those guys sort of mentored him, through the role. Oddly enough, though, he didn't say too much about Lee Marvin, only that Lee Marvin was sort of held in check by his girlfriend Michelle and Robert Phillips, because Lee was heavily drinking. I don't know what the deal was with these two, but I remember reading Ernest Borgnine's autobiography, and he said they were bringing Brown in for a scene with Lee, and Lee offhandedly said, all right, get the bleeper in here. And both Ernie and Robert Aldrich were like, Lee, what the fuck? It's kind of weird because one of Lee's best friends is Woody Strode, so I'm thinking something went fucking wrong there. So anyway, we go into this whole thing where, again, there's hardly anything about his film career in there or what he did, and he always said something about he was always the lead. Well, let me just say this. You were always in the lead. You weren't just the lead. Matter of fact, I think when you got the lead, you were doing stuff like Slaughter and Slaughter's Big Ripoff and Black Gun and stuff like that. Prior to that, you were being co-starred with a bunch of people, like The Split was Ernest Borgnine, Donald Sutherland, Gene Hackman, Jack Klugman. Gene Hackman was in 2 things, I think The Slams and things like that. So it's sort of like you're saying you were the leading man, but you were just part of the lead. And this, to be honest with you, this is the way Hollywood works. If Hollywood is iffy about somebody, as they were iffy about when Clint Eastwood came back to do his first, movie in the States, Hang 'em High, they don't like to take chances. So they paired out the cast. And when you go with Hang 'em High, you had Ben Johnson, Bruce Dern, Dennis Hopper, L.Q. Jones, Alan Hale Jr., Bob Steele, Ed Begley, Pat Hingle. You had a huge supporting cast that in case Clint dropped the ball, they'd pick it up. And I think the same thing went for Jim Brown. And again, no remembrances of him starring with anybody like Lee Van Cleef, which he starred with three different films. It's just kind of weird. And even he said, oh, I never did black exploitation films. Well, then what the fuck was Slaughter? What the fuck was Black Gun? What about these really shitty movies you did toward the end, like that went right to video, like Crack House, and you were actually in Lee Van Cleef's last Western, The Vengeance Kid, which was horrible, and you actually got killed in there. So I don't understand why people would poo-poo something off that basically made them famous. And there's no shame, and these were good films. We really loved these films. We went out and saw these films. So again, I don't understand the whole logic by saying I never did blaxploitation films, because you did. And it's a shame. I know, Jim's no longer with us. And honestly, since he left the Cleveland Browns, he ain't worth a shit. So it's my own opinion. When you have to build a dome stadium for a team that's losing all the time, it's kind of fucked up. But anyway, these guys were icons, and I treat them as icons in the Grindhouse because they did a specific thing. They created a whole genre which employed a lot of black actors, black technicians, black stunt people, black technical people, and whatever. So I don't know why it would be poo-pooed off. And Boots is in here. I'll give you the update on that. I got a call from, you shut up. I got a call from the vet yesterday telling me that her enzymes were down to like at about normal. So they basically, today's the last day of the meds. I run the meds out and see what happens. Hopefully nothing will happen. I'll have a quiet weekend because it's supposed to be shitty. But that's the story with her. And again, I thank everyone who asked and reached out. And some people threw me a couple bucks to help with her care, because this ain't cheap, boys and girls. This ain't cheap at all. So another thing, too, with the Black History is obviously certain people are trying to erase Black History Month, Pride Month, all kinds of shit. Whatever's going on, we got to take a stand, because nobody's taking a stand for us. The Democrats have basically retreated and aren't saying nothing, and we just keep losing and losing and losing all week. So just be aware of what's going on, because what's going on isn't good. So that's our show for today. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for tuning in. Never forget your history, as some people seem to want to do. And stay safe. We'll catch you on the flip side.